Under a dreary sky, and gunfire. The first shot went wide. His target would inevitably decelerate, offering him the perfect opportunity to strike.
The bank's behind the attack, man.
A quick call to base confirmed their fears the Lancia they were driving had been reported stolen. Featuring a clown's visage with dollar signs in place of eyes. A brazen testament to his audacity. While these revelations initially dealt a significant blow to the mafia, fissures within the system have begun to emerge. As gunfire erupted, Malatesta made a desperate attempt to flee the scene, but was swiftly apprehended after sustaining gunshot wounds. Opposition politicians have decried the incident as a scandal. Viewing it as emblematic of the system's failure. You're nothing but a wretched nobody. Under a dreary sky, at a familiar curve in the road, at a distance of 30 feet, the strangers swiftly raised their revolvers and unleashed a barrage in gunfire. The first shot went wide, but the following three found their mark with deadly accuracy. The policeman crumpled to the ground, a searing pain shooting through his leg from the bullet's impact. With determination, he reached for his submachine gun as a figure charged towards him, brandishing a revolver. Enzo Baldini wasted no time, unleashing a volley of 15 rounds. The figure spun and collapsed, devoid of any outcry. Before hitting the ground, Vicsisi lay lifeless, his fate sealed in a deafening silence. He knew all too well that the moment of reckoning arrived for Valerio Vicsisi. His target would inevitably decelerate, offering him the perfect opportunity to strike. With a mask clutched firmly in one hand and the weight of a .357 Magnum in the other, he sat poised alongside his trusted accomplice, their vehicle strategically positioned before the farmhouse, anticipation thick in the air as they awaited their prey. What rounded the bend was an unexpected sight: a traffic patrol with two inquisitive policemen. Their suspicions were immediately aroused upon noticing two strangers observing the isolated road. A quick call to base confirmed their fears the Lancia they were driving had been reported stolen. With resolve, Enzo Baldini emerged from the patrol car, his footsteps crunching over the gravel as he made his way towards Vicsisi. I always harbored the desire to achieve greatness, to ascend to the pinnacle of success, he once mused, reminiscing on a time of unparalleled glamour and infamy. A stark contrast to the harrowing confrontation with a trembling traffic cop that sealed his fate. His demise sent shockwaves across Italy. Vicsisi was never meant to be found armed, lurking in a stolen car, poised to ambush a bank security van. Although technically serving time, he enjoyed daytime reprieves to toil away in the mundane confines of a publisher's office. The narrative surrounding Tuesday's deadly shootout may serve as a poignant epitaph for Italy's once lenient penal system. For Valerio Vicsisi, at the age of 45, was no ordinary criminal. It was he who orchestrated the audacious PS40 million Knightsbridge safe deposit robbery in July 1987, a sensational heist that earned the title of the crime of the century. With meticulous planning and audacious execution, his gang, armed with security guard uniforms, metal cutting equipment, and walkie-talkies, along with the owner's complicity, swiftly cleared 114 boxes in under 2 hours. Among the victims were royalty, celebrities, millionaires, and even fellow criminals. Remarkably, not a single shot was fired, and no one suffered injury during the meticulously orchestrated operation. Vicsisi, a charismatic playboy and notorious seducer, had ventured to London in pursuit of a grandiose existence, and he had undoubtedly discovered it. I was driven by a fervor for weaponry, alluring women, and high-speed automobiles, he confessed. However, his reign of infamy was short-lived. Merely days later, as he sat behind the wheel of his Ferrari, he was apprehended, his identity revealed by a damning fingerprint. Yet, rather than being scorned, he ascended to the status of a folk hero, embracing the monikers bestowed upon him: the Italian stallion, the wolf, the gentleman thief. He reveled in the adulation of his admirers. In truth, Valerio Vicsisi was a conceited and egotistical brute, born to a father who practiced law in libel cases and a mother who owned a boutique in Ascoli Piceno. a town near the site of his final confrontation, he yearned for adoration and didn't shy away from resorting to violence. A seasoned thief by the age of 16, he pursued higher education at a university in Rome during the 1970s, ostensibly to study philosophy. However, he soon fell under the sway of the neo-fascist terrorist leader, Gianni Nardi. Joining Nardi's youth group, Fronte della Gioventù, Vixi embraced radical ideologies, defacing public buildings with swastikas before graduating to more sinister activities such as bombings. As his political motivations waned, he turned to a life of crime, amassing a suspected 54 robberies. Vixi's insatiable thirst for fame drove him to emulate the larger-than-life persona of Al Pacino's character in Scarface, a role he purportedly watched a staggering 58 times. Every detail of his life seemed meticulously crafted to embody the essence of his cinematic idol. From a gold key ring fashioned in the likeness of a shotgun to selecting the combination number for his PS7000 Louis Vuitton briefcase as 357, paying homage to the .357 Magnum. His life mirrored the extravagance of his fantasies. In the 1980s, Vixi relocated to Britain, where he refused to let his imperfect grasp of the English language hinder his pursuit of women or his involvement in 5 daring armed robberies. Even upon his capture, he assumed the role of the master villain, exuding an air of suave confidence. With an athletic physique perpetually adorned in sunglasses and a trademark grin etched upon his face, he effortlessly charmed those around him. Newspapers eagerly chronicled his exploits, captivated by his cunning and charisma. Amidst the fervor surrounding Vixi's mythos, dissenting voices were often overshadowed. Justine Marr, secretary to Parvez Latif, the owner of the targeted security deposit, offered a blunt assessment. I found him tedious, constantly flaunting his Rolex watch and boasting about his extravagant cars. Similarly, a detective expressed his disdain, remarking, he craved recognition as the architect of the world's grandest heist. His ego rivals the magnitude of the Old Bailey itself. Despite these detractors, Vixi's legend continued to thrive. In a defiant declaration before the judge, he proclaimed, "Perhaps I am a romantic lunatic, but wealth was the least of my concerns." However, the reality remained stark. Only a fraction of the stolen PS40 million was ever recovered, leaving behind a legacy steeped in infamy and unresolved mysteries. Condemned to a lengthy sentence of 22 years, Vixi found himself incarcerated within the confines of Parkhurst Prison on the Isle of Wight. Despite the gravity of his situation, he defiantly sported a t-shirt adorned with the bold declaration, "I love Knightsbridge," featuring a clown's visage with $signs in place of eyes, a brazen testament to his audacity. Then, in a dramatic turn of events in November 1992, the Wolf staged a daring escape, though it was officially labeled as extradition. Under the provisions of the Treaty of Strasbourg, Vixi was subsequently transferred to a correctional facility in Pescara, situated along the picturesque Adriatic coast, to serve out the remainder of his sentence. Proclaiming himself a reformed individual, he attempted to negotiate his freedom by fabricating knowledge about the enigmatic death of Roberto Calvi, infamously known as God's banker, whose lifeless body was discovered hanging beneath Blackfriars Bridge in London in 1982. Although his claim proved to be nothing more than a bluff, it mattered little in the grand scheme of things. Within 3 years, Vixi found himself leisurely strolling along the sun-kissed beachside cafes, commuting to and from work at a publisher's office, and even visiting his apartment, all while adhering to the strict regimen of returning to jail by 10:30 every night. Such was the surreal reality of Vixi's life, a testament to the intricacies of the Italian penal system and the cunning prowess of a master manipulator. To addressing Britain, Vixi asserted, while Italy's legal system may appear lenient compared to yours, it is far from soft. The key distinction lies in our rehabilitation program, which does not discriminate as yours does. Publishing an autobiography seemingly marked the culmination of his rehabilitation efforts, propelling Vixi into relative obscurity. Effectively enjoying a semblance of freedom, he remained at large until finally being granted parole in 2003. However, it was during his incarceration that Vixi forged an unlikely alliance with Antonio Malatesta, a prominent figure within the Puglia Mafia, known as the Sacred United Heart. Specializing in a range of illicit activities including kidnappings, armed robberies, and smuggling operations, Malatesta had acquired freedom of movement within the confines of prison walls, thanks to his status as a supergrass, or pentito, which granted him expedited privileges and reduced sentences. Italian justice has relied heavily on the use of supergrasses and the expedited release of model prisoners in its ongoing battle against organized crime. Since the initial breach of the Omerta Code by a mafioso in the 1980s, thousands have followed suit, divulging vital information to authorities. While these revelations initially dealt a significant blow to the mafia, fissures within the system have begun to emerge. Numerous instances have surfaced where prisoners granted semi-liberty have been apprehended committing heinous crimes such as murder and robbery. Moreover, entities or informants have manipulated prosecutors to entrap rival clans, resulting in their testimony being discredited by appellate courts. As a consequence, the credibility of the justice system has come under scrutiny, with Tuesday's shootout catalyzing heightened scrutiny. Opposition politicians have decried the incident as a scandal, viewing it as emblematic of the system's failure. They argue that justice was only served by chance and advocate for Vixi's legacy to catalyze the abolition of supergrasses, signaling a potential turning point in the fight against organized crime in Italy. Police revealed yesterday that the duo had intentions to either execute a bank security van heist or orchestrate the abduction of a scion from one of the region's prominent industrialist families. As gunfire erupted, Malatesta made a desperate attempt to flee the scene, but was swiftly apprehended after sustaining gunshot wounds. Vixi, his once raven locks now streaked with strands of gray, was described by authorities as clad in denim jeans and a verdant jacket as he made his way towards the fallen Baldini, ostensibly with the intent to deliver the final blow. However, before he could carry out his nefarious plan, a barrage of bullets sent him sprawling backward, his prone form stained with the telltale signs of blood emanating from his eyes, nose, and mouth. As reinforcements descended upon the scene, a multitude of police officers gathered around the lifeless body. To their astonishment, none among them recognized the fallen figure before them. In a twist of fate, the mastermind behind numerous audacious heists was mistaken for a mere Albanian bandit in the chaos of the moment. It wasn't until several hours later that his true identity was finally unveiled. Under Vixi's measure of success, his demise was deemed a failure by his standards. As he once quipped, "The rule of this game dictates that evading capture makes you a genius, but once they have you in their grasp, you're nothing but a wretched nobody." Thus, in the end, Vixi's legacy was tarnished by the bitter irony of his downfall.